your host, Antonio. To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate power. And to manipulate power is to manipulate possibilities. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you today. He's going to be, I guess, featuring one of our own locals. He's going to empower us on some estate planning and the whole financial end, that ugly end that we don't like to talk about as much, but find ourselves most often than not prepared for. It's kind of gloomy out there today. Yeah, we're gonna be hit with it for a little bit, but it's Cleveland. I did look at the weather forecast. The guy was talking about the El Nino, and if it's a lightweight strong El Nino, we might have the same amount of snow coverage that we did last year. So that might skate us through. And hopefully we got some more days coming. And I don't know if we reached that point in time in October where we had that little summer weather yet, but we're going to be looking for it. So in the remote studio, we got my main man, brother Vince. What's going on with you, Vince?
Well, we had a little taste of what they used to call Indian
Indian
summer. I
song,
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore, but
Oh
we
yeah,
had
that's how you think about it like that.
yeah,
Okay.
but it was nice earlier in the week. But this is fall. Fall is upon us. The leaves are falling. Things are changing, and we just
Yeah.
got to prepare ourselves for what is to come. Hopefully, that prognostication that you got about El Nino and us not having a whole lot of snow this winter is true. For those of us who are gifted and fly across the friendly skies and the Atlantic
Hmm.
Ocean to warmer climes, they don't worry about that. But we must, as we are here. As we wait for our guests to arrive, I just want to let folks know that and here she is calling right now. We're gonna have an event at Larchmere Arts. Jocelyn Conwell. It's I sent the link to your Hotmail address. I sent the link to your Hotmail address, and you're on the air.
Well, while you
Ladies and
navigate,
gentlemen, we're on the air simultaneously, radio, YouTube, and Facebook, and we're connecting with our guest Jocelyn Conwell right now. Hopefully, she's gonna
okay.
hit the link and she'll be in
But
the studio very shortly.
hey, Vince, while you're handling that with her, I go ahead and speak on other guests where we was anticipating having on, talking about his book. One of our local authors, Brother Bush, is put out a book that he think it is very powerful and necessary in this time of gun violence. People, and he wrote me out a little something today to speak on the book and show you how you can get connected to the book as well. Um, he's going to probably be on the show a little later on once he work out some logistics on it. But people have been praying for years for a way for help. In gun violence, the Lord has heard their prayers. There's a local author who has worked on the project and materials for over 7 years to show people how to help themselves and do not become violent with a gun. The answers are ready for you here, and it includes a halo hoop of hope and providence ring therapy exercise tool. He talks about this gun, especially in the black community. God has given us a way out, and we need to use it. So if you believe in the Lord, then you could be free in committing from heinous crimes. Okay, there's a thousand executions and reasons why people kill, but there's only one way you can develop and abstain from doing that is the power of love. And the name of the book is called, it's entitled America's Rescue Plan to Stop Gun Violence. Okay. Subtitle, A Mission That Is Not Impossible. It is written by this black author, Brother Bush, and who has experienced violence within himself and turned that all around. And to find the book and a little bit more about what's going on, you can go to heaven bound to heaven.org, bound to heaven.org. So we're going to try to get the brother on soon to talk about the book, and he's very excited about the book, and you think it'd be very helpful because you don't have to go far just to listen here. all the violence that is going on in our community. So he think he has a tool to help us with that, and really to get into our psychosis to help stop this violence that we have towards one another in our community. So uh, we're going to reach out to him and get him on so he can talk about this book that he's very excited about. All right, Vince.
All right. I also received a email from Brother Paul Hill about this massive grant that the city of Cleveland Heights has received, and the object of, or the objective of the grant is to prevent violence in the community. So that might be something that we may want to look into, perhaps having some conversation or dialogue on the air. And before we welcome the guests, I just wanted to mention, because we're not going to do commercials today, but I just wanted folks to know that we're going to be doing an event at Larchmere Arts on the 20th. That's a Friday night, the 20th of October. We're going to have music, poetry, spoken word, live musical performance. Stay tuned, because I'll be posting something to Facebook very soon, more than likely sometime today. So if you haven't already done so, you want to go to the Facebook page for Larchmere Arts and just like the page, and you'll get notifications when we post events, and you can get an invitation. So with
But
all that said,
one other thing, Vince, I forgot one other thing to let our listeners know. There's a vote fest going on today from 1 to 6 p.m. It's at 966 East 105, Cleveland, Ohio. That's brother Fred Ward's place. And he's going to have a guest speaker of an organization that, guess who that may be? Fred Hampton Jr. He's going to be there, a part of this vote fest there. So you can come on down there from 1 to 6, right there on 966 uh, uh, East 105. What's this? Kanumu Foundation. Come on down there from 1 to 6 and meet our good brother. He might be related to me. I don't know. Fred Hampton Jr., the son of our good brother Fred Hampton, and Bernard Hoover. They're going to be there pushing the whole vote, get out the vote piece. So if you ain't got nothing to do today,
okay.
come on down. Hmm.
Yeah, that's today. So 966 East 105th Street, you said?
That is correct.
Okay. It's right down the
Hmm.
street.
Hmm.
All right. Without any further ado, she's got her face all together, the hair, the do is all whipped up and ready to present to the public. She is
Uh-huh.
attorney Jocelyn Conwell. You may know her as the sister of Ward 9 Councilman Kevin Conwell, but she's carved her own path in the legal industry. And I'm telling you, I had a conversation with her earlier in the week, and she was laying it down. So, folks, you are in store from some real pearls when it comes to matters of estate planning and wills and dealing with probate and all that other good stuff. But, she also has a pedigree as someone who has been in the prosecutor's office. She's done some criminal defense work. So she's really done quite a bit in the legal field. She knows her stuff. Without any further ado, we'd like to present to you attorney Jocelyn Conwell. Welcome to our program this morning, Jocelyn.
And thank you for having me.
All
Yes,
right,
ma'am. All right,
Brother
all right.
Antonio.
Yes, we this is I think an area that a lot of times, the African American community falls short on, we in planning and preparing ourselves, for, financial issues that may arise and things that happen in people's family that unexpected. So it's always good to prepare yourself and be knowledgeable on some of the roads that's necessary and some of the pitfalls that can happen from not uh, I guess preparing yourselves for things. So we decided to bring Sister Conwell on to talk about some of those things as far as estate planning. So Sister Conwell, so what are some of the things you've seen in the field that it seems to plague the African American community that really cause us some ills out there?
Because we don't plan ahead,
Mm.
basically. Like, for instance, a will, people say, well, I don't have anything, I don't own anything. And if you think about it, we all have some assets, even if, say, for instance, we don't own a home, like cars, maybe money in the bank, things of that nature. And you need to have a will which lays out what your desires are and to whom you'd want to have those items, especially if you have real estate holdings and things of that nature, because I've seen so much family strife based upon the fact that there was no plan by the decedent before their demise. A will is important because it distributes your assets. It gives the courts an idea of how you want your assets distributed among your heirs or maybe just friends, because sometimes it's not necessarily family. You might want it to be distributed to friends. It doesn't have to be distributed to family, but that's something a will is a document that allows you to lay out your desires. And there's a proper procedure that has to be followed. You can't just draw up something on a piece of paper and say, this is my will, this is my desires. There's a procedure, a specific procedure that has to be followed when you're preparing a will. Also, you need powers of attorneys, power of attorney for healthcare, living will. Power of attorney for healthcare, distinguish it from a living will. Let's say, for instance, you're in an automobile accident and you're rendered unconscious as a result thereof. They take you to the doctor. Well, obviously, if you're unconscious, you're not going to be able to speak with the physician. So you need somebody that power of attorney for healthcare. You designate whom you rely on, whom you would trust to relay your desires under a given set of circumstances to the physician, to the treating physician. In this instance, it could be a family member or it may not be a family member. If you know that you have family members that you know you cannot rely on, who may not be mature enough to relay your desires, who may, or maybe, for instance, may not even be trustworthy, because just because they're family doesn't mean that you can trust them. So you may have to rely on a good friend, your next door neighbor, who may be closer to you than a family member. So there's a document called power of attorney. There's a procedure that must be followed. You just don't caption it power of attorney for healthcare. There's a procedure that must be followed. That's why you need to consult with an attorney to get that document done properly, so that it will stand up in court in case family members decides to challenge it. There's a proper procedure that must be followed. Then there's a living will. Living wills come into play when, say, for instance, your condition is determined to be terminal. And oftentimes, of course, cancer is the big C. That's the main one that oftentimes cause us to be determined terminal. And you can put your desires in that living will as to whether or not, how many opinions you want, a first, second, third opinion before making a decision. You name a person in the living will as well to whom you're putting in charge. And you name a person in the living will to whom you're putting in charge with regards to when that decision is made. You're in the hospital, you're on all these medical devices and stuff to keep you alive, and you've basically conveying in that living will that you do not want to spend countless number of days or months, for that matter, hooked up to these devices, because that's not living. And the reason why I encourage people to do those living will documents is because that alone can cause family strife. Because if you tell that doctor, say, for instance, you're put in the position, but there's no living will authorizing you to do so, that you want those plugs pulled, then you may have problems with family members calling you a murderer. I mean, things can get extremely contentious in families. I've seen it happen too many times, because that's the line of work that I do. When people don't make those plans and have those documents available, expressing a person's wishes, because then that takes the pressure off of other family members, or your friend for that matter, because you've got all those documents in place. I remember, I'll give you an example. A dear friend of my grandmother's, whom I hadn't seen in years. She'd been knowing me since, I guess before I was born, because she knew my family. And I was called by her. I was shocked because I hadn't seen or heard from her in years. Went up to the hospital. She was, on her deathbed, literally. But she remembered me, shockingly. Some of her family members were there. She never had children, so these were like distant relatives. They were all standing around. Then she had her next door neighbor, a very close friend of hers, from what I could ascertain. She told the family that she wanted her best friend to be in charge of her affairs. Well, I knew that that was going to cause problems. And so they said, okay, initially. But I knew I was going to get that telephone call. Sure enough, I get a call from the social worker at the hospital saying, well, one of the family members had a power of attorney with regards to, I think it was a healthcare power of attorney. That's what it was. So they wanted her friend to turn over the assets. And I was like, a power of attorney does not authorize her to be in possession of any of that person's assets. I said, so what are you talking about? Well, she needs to release them. I said, no, she does not. Legally, she doesn't have to. I said, the only power of attorney the only power of attorney that your person has is to make healthcare decisions. That does not give her the right to have her personal assets. See, things get real tricky with families because they're looking at your personal assets too. So I'm sure you can read between the lines and see what was going on there. They were ready to go in there and raid that woman's house, basically, and take everything she had. I've seen that happen too many times. I've seen an instance where a woman wanted a burial. And the person that she put in charge, whom she thought she could trust, because I have to rely on them to, tell me who the person is they want to trust. This person had her cremated. And that's not what she wanted. I get a call from a relative saying, well, he had her cremated. I said, well, ma'am, what do you want me to do? I don't know your family. I asked her, who could she trust? That's who she told me. So these are decisions that need to be made, not at a time of when you're on your deathbed, because this woman, well, she had been diagnosed with cancer. So she probably was not in the best frame of mind when she came to me. That's why I encourage people to make these plans well in advance. I'm like, for instance, me personally, I'm on my third will. Powers of attorneys, all of that, because as circumstances change, you need to go in there and make those changes. Because the person that you may have put in charge may not be capable of handling your personal affairs. So you need to go in there and do a new one. Do a new power of attorney for healthcare. Do a new living will. Do a new will. So, and I see African Americans especially do not plan ahead. And I know when we buried my grandmother, for instance, the limousine driver told us, "Say you are one of the best families that I've had to service." And we looked at each other like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I can't tell you how many times I've had to pull my limousine over in referee fights because family are in the car arguing about who's getting what."
Yes, it's really critical that we have affairs in order when it gets to this part of our lives, because it's just one of those rites of passage that we have to negotiate. And it kind of gets ugly when families come around after someone has made that transition. uh Jocelyn, we're going to have to conclude the interview right now, but we'd like to invite you to come back and visit with us. This will come after November 7th, I believe, is the date. We've gotten a notification that we need to move forward with the program. So we want to thank you for joining us today and wish you success in the events that are coming up that we can't really talk about right now.
Exactly. But I hope that I've given some people thoughts about how, something to think
Absolutely.
about, something to chew on, because
Yes.
that's extremely
Absolutely.
important, because it tears families apart when you don't have
Yes.
your affairs in order.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we will be back, and you will have more dialogue with myself and Brother Hamtonio right here on 360 Info Network on AM 1490 WERE. Stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Okay. Are we off the air?
No, we're still on the air. We're back. 360 Info Network right here on AM 1490 WERE. I'm Vince Robinson along with Antonio. And we are going with the flow, moving and grooving and doing what we have to do in the world of broadcasting. Things kind of get complicated sometimes, especially around election season. So that's the compensation that, or the situation that we're addressing
Mhm.
right now. A little
Mhm.
uncomfortable, but we will get through this. So,
No
Brother
doubt, no
Lynn,
doubt.
we have talked about quite a few things in our past few shows, and every once in a while we get to a place where we kind of do a retrospective. We're in a season of change. We had the autumn equinox just a few days ago, and we're kind of in this new season. Perhaps this might be a good time to reflect on what we've been able to accomplish this year, perhaps some of the folks that resonated with you in terms of interviews that we've done over the past few months. Are there any that come to mind?
Yeah, if you recall, I just reached out to you about, what was it, Miss Georgia Dunston?
Mm-hmm,
Is
Dr.
that right?
Dunstan.
Dunston,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Things of that nature. It's you know, like I say, for this last several years, um, I really been resonating on the consciousness, the power of consciousness, and having and developing the right consciousness to take you pretty much to the places that you're trying to go to as an individual. Because uh, Brother Wayne Chandler have said it several years ago about a time where the planet is actually going to come into a stage of enlightenment, and a lot of things is going to be going on, and we as people individuals have to prepare ourselves and be ready for this new surge of energy. So I don't know if our listeners have really been paying attention. Over the last couple of years, I've been paying attention to a lot of the stuff that is going on in the cosmos with the the Earth's magnetic field was changing a little bit. Sun going through different little cosmic things going on. They finding other galaxies and planes. They getting these radio signals that's coming from somewhere. They don't know where it's coming from. Just so many things, and then the things that's going on in the planet. So one has to actually be up under a rock, not to know and feel that something is brewing and something is going on. So that's why it's ever so important for us to really understand, what's going on and who we are as individuals. And so in Dr. Dunstan and other people, they're talking about, the DNA and breaking some of those sequences codes about the DNA. So now there's something else that we need to be paying attention to and seeing exactly how, far this system is going to take us, and messing with, the DNA. We know what just happened with the jab and things of that nature. So, dealing with a RNMNA type of approach to things. So RNA, so we need to be mindful, and unfortunately, we as individuals, we got to take better charge of our health and what's going on and consciousness around us. So those are some of the things that I've been really uh, studying and preparing myself, and trying to really even talk to others about this whole thing of consciousness and DNA and RNA and how that affects the body. So we really need to be paying attention. So those are the things that's really been uh, on my mind, and it's interesting how all of it ties into what's going on with the planet today. So it's very interesting. Very interesting. And something I just said to my brother, in that theta state of mind, I woke up this morning with something because I was watching something last night, and they was talking about um, um, this consciousness and and some of the laws and principles, that some of your hermetic tech talk about, law of attraction, law of spirit, law of vibration, and things like that. And then I reflected back to the Sphinx, one of the um, uh, explanations or as far as the Sphinx is concerned, when you talk about the man's head and animal body, well, one of the theories of what that really expressed was man must learn how to rule over its beastly nature, meaning raising your level of vibration. So there's a commercial that came out where the guy was advertising his program, talking about uh, the laws of attraction, and it is not faulty, the laws of attraction, but when people trying to attract those things to themselves, they not on the level of frequency that those things, the things that they're trying to attract, is not equal with the level of frequency that they're operating on. So you have to raise your level of frequency in order to get to the point of attracting those things that you want. So there's some self work that you have to do to get to that point. And so the epiphany I had this morning was basically, when I was asked, okay, well, how do you do that? So, hey, you don't operate in jealousy, you don't operate in envy, you don't operate in anger and things like that. That lower vibratory energy keeps you down and don't allow you to get to the point of raising that consciousness up. So, in saying that, is it a two-part tool of dealing with what our religious people would say, um, um, the Ten Commandments: "Thou shalt not kill, steal, jealous." And so, are those actually tools that you practice, or laws, so you don't, to abstain yourself, so you can raise yourself to this level of frequency, so the universe can offer itself to you and give you what you want? Because what the Bible say, hey, you do his laws, and God will give you in abundance. Well, this abundance could come from raising your level of frequency. So you could be saying the same thing, but just in a different way, of understanding. So that's one of the little epiphany that I had got this morning when I was in my little theta state when I was waking up this morning. It's the same thing. You're just raising your level of frequency. So God will give you what you want when you raise your level of frequency, when you abstain from the lower or vibratory energies, and following the laws of the creator allows you to stay in that state of the higher state of consciousness, so the universe could manifest all what you want.
That's a really interesting concept that you just shared, Lynn, especially when you talk about, I guess, exemplifying those negative emotions that we have as human beings, and then being trapped in those things. And then when you look at the whole law of attraction, if you are attracting something that's like you, then you're going to bring someone to yourself that's going to bring drama to you. And then you have to deal with that. So perhaps it will behoove us to consider who we keep company with, and look at the level at which they're vibrating. But it's also important not to do it from a place of judgment, because a lot of times when we see negative things in someone else, what we are observing is something negative about ourselves that is expressing through our perception of that person. So when you
Mhm.
operate from a perspective of being in love, or being in gratitude, or being in peace, that law of attraction is going to bring those things to you. When you talk about frequencies, we're having more and more conversations about frequency. I recall seeing an ad on Facebook the other day, and it was somebody who was talking about somehow using a frequency to bring peace to your pet, and it was like 528 hertz. And this is
Wow.
something that brings calm to you and also brings calm to your pet. And so I looked at the comment thread, and there were people who were talking about how, when it thunders outside, it brings discomfort to your pet. When they
Mhm.
hear loud noises and things like that, it brings discomfort to them. But they use some type of device that was emitting this 528 hertz, and it brought peace to the dog, and it brought peace to the owner. Just reflecting on some of the shows that we've done, we had Dr. Trinace Talbert on a few weeks ago, and she was talking about frequency. So again, you talked about things that lower our vibrational frequency, and I couldn't help but think about the foods that we eat.
Mm.
because the things that you eat, they're either going to hurt you or they're going to help you. There's no in between. It's either medicine or it's not. you know when you look at the healing power that herbs and plants have, and there's some folks who are stuck on that whole science thing and discount the but you've been in herbs, so you know that there is healing power in herbs. I've been having conversations with people about functional medicine. A few people who have reached out to me who actually heard the broadcast that we did with Yvonne Mitchell last weekend, and it just told us how profound that program was, because she was operating from an experiential level. Remember, she said that she was having some issues with brain fog and kidney issues and whatnot. So she decided to get with another functional medicine specialist, and they were able to put her on the right track. They identified some foods that were problematic, and again, everything has a vibrational frequency. So when you consume something, the vibratory frequency of that substance has an effect on you. So many things, the consumption of meat. Some talk about the fact that there's a certain lower vibrational level associated with the meat just because of the experience that the animal went through. So when the animal had the jugular cut, and they bled out, and all the things that happened to that animal, well, that experience is in the cells of that beast or that animal or whatever. So when you consume that animal, you also consume that angst that they went through, and that can
Mhm.
play a role in lowering our vibrational level. Now, there are some who would discount that, some who would poo poo it, and, you look around and you see some of our elders that might be, 80, 90, or pushing 100 years old, and they ate meat their whole lives, and it didn't take them out. But it is something to think about if you think about things in terms of karma. I saw another piece online where it was this brother who he said he was a vegetarian, and a beautiful brother. He was up in age, his hair was all whitey, white beard, and the whole thing, but bruh was fit. And he said,
Mhm.
"I'm not vegan, I'm vegetarian." But he went on to explain that vegetarians aren't ovo and they're not lacto because they're not eating aborted fetuses, which would be the eggs, and they're not drinking the pus that comes from a cow. So he said he is a
Mhm.
vegetarian. He's not a vegan because he's not on the whole animal rights tip. He said that he doesn't want to have anything to do with something that would chase him or threaten his life. So he,
Okay.
he's not the animal rights activist, but he was very specific
Mm,
about you know
mm,
uh,
mm,
consuming fruits and vegetables and so forth and so on. And when you see folks like that, you can see the evidence of
mhm.
what they've done.
Good living, yeah, good living,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
just like when you look at that sisters who have been involved in fitness, like Annette Larkins and others that are in their 80s, but they've stuck with a regimen that includes resistance training. It includes a clean diet, which is fruits, vegetables, good
mhm,
water, all those things. All those things have a beneficial effect on the way
mhm,
you live. And then you want to look locally, you can look at brothers like Dr. Brown,
mhm, mhm.
you
And
know,
and Dr. Whitaker.
and Dr. Whitaker. I mean,
Mm,
Dr.
mhm.
Whitaker is going to
He's even
turn,
older than Brown, yeah.
yeah, he's going to
Mm,
turn 80 years old next month.
mhm. Well, let me say this, Vince. It's something I've been saying for a long time too, is that we don't understand. We don't understand that for number one, I believe it's like 120, it could be 180 days, 120 days, I don't remember. But the fact of the matter is that every cell in your body renews itself. You know, the body, the creator has put this body together masterfully. You know what I mean? And it is made to outlast, and to last much longer than we expect. We just do things, we just get in the way of it trying to fix itself, and the system has just bombarded us with so much garbage, and it's cutting down our lifespan. Yes, a person can still live to be 80, 90 years old eating meat. For number one, you can always talk about the quality of meat that they built that foundation on. It's different from the meat that we getting today. We can always, and you can see most of those people that was old like that, they come from the South. Someone was living off the land, and then, or even their parents before them. And so you got to understand, when two people comes together, they come together, and their particular constitution comes together to bring about what your inherited weaknesses, your inherited strengths. It comes from your parents. So if they had to come from a good bloodline, and that joining and that of together between their parents produced a good and viable human being, then your constitution is going to be stronger than someone who comes with some weak inherited uh, 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 things and weaknesses and things like that. So you have to take those things in account. So a lot of times people talk about things being hereditary. Yes, it would be hereditary if you live the same lifestyle as your parents. Yeah, you would come down with cancer, you would come down with diabetes because you're doing the same things as your parents did. So the point I'm trying to say is that you can't use that as an excuse because they did this or did that and lived 90, so I'm gonna do that. Like a friend told me, why sign up for death or sign up for major illnesses, by just turning a deaf eye or ear to eating better. It's simply put, if you understand the basic, that this is all about energy. This is all about vibration and frequency and things like that. And the food is about energy, and you're an electrical being. Something that's dead cannot be the best for a body that is alive. It needs more energy to take care of it. You got to be plugged up. Just think about it as a mechanical device. It has to be plugged into a circuit to give it some energy to keep it going. And by you killing something, draining it, putting in a frying pan and eating it is not the best thing for this body. Simply put, we just don't want to do the work, or we don't want to sacrifice in doing it. Like Dr. Misi said when I was studying for my iridology degree. You never cut no arteries open, and a plant-based diet caused those arteries to be clogged. That never happened. It comes from the meat, that traces of meat that you leave in your arteries. And it's been known that through these other countries, they until they took on our diet, they certain these Asian countries never had an issue with cancer and heart attacks and things like that until they, up their ante and eating meat. So it's just simply put, that's just the way it is. So you can live to be this or that, but how many medications and things and that you're on. So it depends on what you want to sign yourself up for. We got to quit copping out like that.
Yeah, so true. I recall being in Ghana back in 2019 and driving through Kumasi, and what they do over in Ghana is when somebody makes transition, they put up death notices, but they use posters, or they'll put something up on a telephone pole or something like that. And so we're driving through Kumasi, and I look up and I see this great big banner up on the side of a building, and the person who made transition was 120 years old. We
Mm.
don't, we don't hear about those kinds of people a lot over here because life like that is considered to be an exception. But when you go to places like Africa, you'll find people who have been connected with the earth, who have gotten abundant sunshine, who have gotten good food and have a relatively healthy lifestyle, and they're able to see extensions, when it comes to their lives. I was also thinking about our tradition of celebrating birthdays and our whole relationship to the construct of time. And there are some who talk about time and say that time doesn't exist. But what we do as we measure time by using calendars and watches and so forth and so on, and we program our minds to think that we have certain limitations, and then look at the way that we celebrate. You get to that point in life and you're marking another trip around the sun. And how do you celebrate it? Well, you celebrate it with a great big piece of cake. And the cake is just this great big pile of poison, that it's going to have a detrimental effect on your immune system because the sugar affects the white blood cells in a very negative way. I mean, it really kind of defeats and depresses your immune system. So it's no wonder that people have these milestones and then the next couple of weeks they have some type of sickness. And I'll testify because this happened to me. I just decided that I was going to have that piece of cake. And then the following week, things aren't right. But again, we look at this construct of time and we tell ourselves, well, I'm this old, so my body's supposed to be in this degenerative state. But if you have done things to support regeneration, and as you said, the cells in the body renew themselves every so often. I think the figure is somewhere around 7 years. If you're doing all this positive activity, and this is your way of life, the way you live, you're conscious about the things that you put on your body, you're conscious of the things that you put in your mouth, you're conscious of the things that you take into your mind, things that can either cause fear, worry, stress, anxiety, or you could take in things that will or be uplifting, something that will, some type of a mantra that expresses the truth and the beauty of who you are as a human being and allows you to exist in a spirit of love and gratitude. I'll just say this: gratitude is one of the most powerful things that we can embrace as beings in this universe, because when you live in a perpetual state of gratitude, you're going to attract positivity into your life. There are uh, mantras that people do to foster abundance. And one of the things that I've learned about fostering abundance is expressing gratitude for the things that you have, the things that bring value to your life. These are things that will enable you to keep that type of energy flowing within your universe. But consequently, if you look at things in a negative way, it really brings more of that negativity to you. And I guess that just comes back to that whole idea of frequency. We talked about frequency earlier when I brought up the idea of tuning into 528 hertz, but there are so many other frequencies that deal with specific things. And when we learn about those frequencies and learn of ways that we can connect to those frequencies, we can bring a benefit to our life. I was thinking earlier about a conversation that I had with one of our subject matter experts who suggested that something as simple as a tuning fork, I think it was Dr. Talbert that mentioned that,
Yeah.
something as simple as a tuning fork, that you could use that. And then, there are the tuning bowls. There are solfeggio frequencies. And so you can go on YouTube, you can go on Spotify, you can bring these things in, and then you can I guess, focus on the whole idea of meditation. We don't talk about that enough, but there's so much power in meditation. Yes, it's important to pray, but it's also important to meditate. It's also important to disconnect. I have been blessed recently to spend some time just being in the woods, and being still and listening to the sounds that were around me, and then breathing deeply and getting into that meditative trance, and putting my feet on the ground, taking my shoes off and experiencing that connection with the earth. And I can tell you, definitively that it was extremely energizing to go through that. So I'd like to recommend that to folks today in this
Yeah.
moment. If
Right.
you yeah, if you have some time, go into the woods. We've got so many parks around here that it's not that you don't have anywhere to go, but go into the woods and
Hug a
just,
tree.
yeah, hug a tree. No, seriously,
Yeah, I
man.
know, man. I know.
When I was in Panama, not Panama, when I was in Mexico last year, um, on the retreat with Brother Wayne Chandler, there was a time when we went to Chichen Itza, and the group that I was with, it was my comedian friend Donald Lacey from out there in Oakland, and then we had a sister Nicole Jackson, who is a yoga and Tai Chi practitioner in Washington D.C. And then my friend Saria Walters from the UK. We went to Chichen Itza, and we took a little time to stand next to a tree and to just basically be still with the tree and experience that energetic connection. And again, if you're tuned in, if you're vibrating at a certain level of frequency, it can be extremely beneficial to you. One
Right.
thing before we move on to the next one, just curious, did you get any notifications about that emergency broadcast signal that was supposed to
Right.
happen?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh,
What,
uh-huh.
what what do you know about that, or what do you think about
Man,
that phenomenon?
hey, for me right now, man, I just don't take too many chances right now. I don't know, but like I said, I'm a lightweight conspiracy theorist. I just don't know because I know that the system is playing around a whole lot with frequencies and things like that, and how you can use frequencies like we frequencies to control us through the music and stuff. We talked about that, how that energy. So at this point in time, people, and especially black folks, have to be mindful of everything that is coming down the pike because the system has showed its hand, and it don't have your best interest at heart. They're into this. I reflect back to what Wayne had said in one of the lectures. If they perfected cloning back, I believe, either 84 or 86, how far that has that technology have gotten to this particular point? 30 years or so later, where they at? When we talked about Dr. Dunson talking about some of that junk DNA that they used to didn't know what it was about, that they might have found out and sequenced that out now, and understanding a little bit about what it is and how they know how to interject things within the DNA and create and cause the DNA to do this, or can tell and can analyze the DNA and find out some possible inherited issues that a person may have. And of course, on the flip side, on the positive side, they're gonna say, hey, they can create medicines and things like that to circumvent some issues, some future possible issues and stuff like that. But what is it's a double-edged sword. What else? So I'm saying, with that being said, they've been playing around with that frequencies and things like that for a long time. So I it's I don't trust none of the things. And then how long we've been talking about the whole 5G situation. That's still up in the air. That whole debacle hasn't been satisfied as well. We don't know what they could be doing. Well, what I will say, and paying attention to what's going on in the community right now, and how some of us is acting and towards each other, it just seemed like something is going on. It was almost like in that movie when they can hit you with a frequency and have you go off crazy, because there's some crazy stuff that's going on in people. You see how people's driving on the freeway today? There's just, and white and black, just acting like they losing their mind. Something is going on. So I paid attention to it. So of course, so I was one to cut off the phone.
Well, I cut off the phone. I cut off the computer. I wanted to have no parts of connection, and
Just in
ironically,
case.
just in
Hey,
case,
just in case. Let me say this real quick, Vince. I want to get this in when you were speaking on that. You can leave it on the double. I want to see you when I talk. But no, you could go back if you want to. I want people to understand. See this whole thing and why it's so important when we talk about frequencies. You know, it's why does or how does colors affect the body? Why does or how does music affect the body? How does certain oh Lord, fragrances affect the body? How does different smells and things like that affect the body? Those things are not touching you. They're not a part of your body. They're external from your body. So how and why does it affect the body in a certain way? Cause you to have certain feelings and emotions and things. It's the frequency, y'all. All those things play an important role on how you move and navigate. So when our ancestors or indigenous people use those particular things to carry them into a certain state of mind, a certain state of consciousness, we're gonna look at them, oh woo wee, like they talking something crazy. See, that's a testament to some of the things that we have lost in understanding. So when you talk about that tree, the tree, there's a relationship between you and that tree. See, that's spirituality. Those are the jewels and the nuggets that we lost, that we are walking every day oblivious of. And then we wonder why certain things is not working for us. We wonder why things are happening bad to us. Those are the things that are governing you and governing the planet. We have to be mindful. We have to understand that. And that's why we have to go back and understanding that relationship. So we all electrical. So how you was born, they want to look at the zodiac or something crazy, spooky, and things like that. Energy on the planet, how all these celestial bodies are lining up is bringing certain energy and frequency on the planet that would cause certain things to happen in your development. It's important. All that stuff is relative.
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk about frequencies and you talk about us being electric beings, we have fields around us. We have
Yeah.
chakras that extend beyond
Right.
our physical
Right.
body. When you talked about the impact of sound, it's no coincidence that when the African drums are playing,
Mm.
something about what those drums are emitting affect you in a physical way.
Yes.
But they don't just affect you in a physical way, they also affect you in a mental and a spiritual way. And again, it's all about vibration. When the hand strikes that skin and it vibrates and it emits that signal, then there's a response to it. I'm thinking about folks like our brother Wayne Chandler, who is able to facilitate healing in people remotely. So he could be dealing with someone who's in a completely different state, and he's able to communicate with them in such a way that it fosters a healing process in their body. Just think about the fact that you can think about a person, and that person who's on the other side of the world can pick up the phone and call you,
Mhm.
just based on the idea that you sent that thought into the universe. We think about AI, but then we have NI, natural intelligence. We have an ability to do things far beyond what most people even consider as being humanly possible. We
Mhm.
limit ourselves by the things that we're told about ourselves, and we don't learn ourselves to a point where we realize that we are capable of doing these kinds of things. So when we get into practices like qigong and like yoga and reiki and some of the other modalities that we get from the other side of the globe or from our ancestors, then we can begin to discover the power that we have as beings. We've been pushed away from even thinking about ourselves having any type of divinity because we've had divinity pushed away outside of ourselves. I saw a really interesting graphic last week, and it was talking about heaven and hell. It was talking about heaven being the highest point in your body, this here.
Mhm.
But then it was talking about
Crown.
souls and the magic of our language is that SOUL and SOLE sound the same.
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
but you think about your soul, it's a part of your body, and your heaven is up here. So when you think about as above so below, you could take it into a macro sense and think about way up there. But then when you look at bringing it into a micro sense, you can see yourself as a microcosmic aspect of the macrocosmic thing, which is the
Absolutely.
universe. you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
That's key right there. What you just
yeah.
said.
Mhm.
That's knowledge right there. That understanding that relationship. That's knowledge, brother.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
And then, just I know some folks they just can't handle the idea of us being gods, but then there are some who say, well, they changed it from one God, or they changed it from multiple gods to one God. I want to invoke a couple of folks that folks can look into if they want to get more information about what we're talking about right now. I'm sure you've heard of him, Billy Carson.
Mhm. Mhm.
Billy Carson, and there's another brother, 369 Magic has a YouTube channel,
Mhm.
and he brings heavyweights on a consistent basis to talk about these kinds of things. But we don't know anything about Anunnaki. We're having all these conversations about aliens and stuff like that, thinking that it's all woo-woo stuff. We've talked about conspiracy theory in the past hour. Sometimes you might want to pay attention to some of the conspiracy theories out there, because they have come to be found out as truth and not just conspiracy. So don't let people push you away from pursuing understanding and truth. It's there for you if you decide to engage
Mhm.
in it. We're at 11:59, brother. The
Yeah.
hour has raced by, but we want to definitely thank everyone for listening. We deal with things in the moment, so we move forward, and hopefully we provided something that's edifying to you. We'd like to thank our engineer, Tone Harley, for bringing us together to be able to put this broadcast on YouTube and Facebook. And most of all, we thank you for listening. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Do everything that you can to make today your best day. Peace.
Peace.